get started. Hi, everyone. Please join us, and we'll do a quick overview and demonstration of Appstack. Appstack is a software platform for managing applications in the cloud. We'll provide an introduction and demo to that. So my name is Paul Speciali. I'm the head of marketing and alliances for the company. Our background is actually in the data center and cloud computing space. We're actually the architects of one of the big public cloud service offered by a service provider. And we came out of that experience realizing that developing, deploying, and managing apps in the cloud was still very manual, very error-prone, very complex. And we decided to do something about it. And what we did was actually build a product to address that problem. So the name of the product is Appstack. It's a software platform that you install on premises. The software is actually delivered as a set of virtual machines. You run it in a hypervisor of your choice, and it can manage applications in private clouds or in public clouds. So the whole idea is that we simplify the process of bringing applications into the cloud. We'd like to get this to the point where it's fully automated, right? We want the user to have a very seamless experience of pointing and clicking, selecting what applications they want to run, selecting the cloud targets, and then having the system automate the remainder of the process. We also offer, as part of the tool, a catalog of prepackaged application components. And what you can do with those is you can actually mix them into your more complex workloads. So you can really use our system to create an enterprise application. We're very focused on making it possible to build multi-tier and distributed apps in the cloud. The heart of what we do is an engine. It's a software engine that knows how to automate this application orchestration and provisioning. But what I'll show you here is kind of the user portal, which allows you to do this in a very simple point-and-click fashion. Okay, so with that, let's turn over to the browser here, and I'll give you kind of a quick flavor of how this works. So the first thing about Appstack, and what we're looking at here is the dashboard, which kind of gives me a top-level view on the number of things that I have running in the cloud. One of the concepts that we introduce here is the notion of a workload. A workload is just a very simple management container. And a workload can contain lots of applications and lots of servers, but it serves the purpose of making it very simple for you to manage more complex multi-component applications. So what I see here is that I have 4 workloads running in the cloud. In those workloads, I have 15 server instances and 1 application, but I'll show you how to go ahead and create a new one right from scratch here. One of the key things we did is made our product multi-cloud enabled. So when you install our product, you really have a choice to use it against 1 or more clouds. You may be basing your private cloud on environments from CA, which is the AppLogic product, or from Citrix Cloud Platform. VMware is another cloud layer that we're integrated with. Or you can choose to use it against a public cloud, like an Amazon or a Rackspace or one of the other vendors that we provide. So it's really as simple as setting up what we call a cloud profile, and you provide us the credentials for the cloud account that you have or your private cloud. Okay, so I mentioned this idea of a workload. So what is a workload? The way to think about it is that it's this container that lets me group together a number of servers, and on those servers I have applications running. So here's a small example of a workload that I created earlier. You can see that it's already running. It's in Amazon. And I can see from this sort of top level that it's 2 applications. It's a Drupal application, which is a content management app. And I have a Hadoop cluster, a small Hadoop cluster. And then I can see that it's running on 6 instances in Amazon. Okay, and then furthermore, our system knows about all the dependencies. So it knows that the Drupal server, for example, needs PHP, it needs Apache, it knows that the database is MySQL. So all of that dependency management is also captured in our system. So the green circles here indicate that these are up and running, they're live instances, and I actually have full control to go and manage these apps to perform lifecycle sort of tasks on them. So this is a view that shows me the topology view. I see things subdivided here by tiers. So I have a web tier showing me the application server running Drupal, the database server. At any point, I can click on any of these instances and perform simple actions on them, like starting and stopping them, even launching another server. And furthermore, I can actually go and manage the app itself. So I can select configure, and that brings me to a set of pages that let me actually make modifications to the application parameters. So I get lots of access to things like I can trigger auto scaling. So that's something that I can turn on based on some threshold. I have access to the actual application pages, the firewall rules. I can change firewall rules. I can edit them. I can set backup in the cloud. I can manage storage volumes, and I have access to graphing and monitoring and logging services. So that's kind of the deep control that you get on the workload components. To make it very easy to onboard an app, this is one of the reasons that we've provided this sort of pre-packaged catalog, or think of it as a marketplace of apps. This is a collection of very popular components that you might want to mix into your workload. We kind of organize these by category. So there's a list of content management applications, things like WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, but other things, including commercial apps from Intuit, things like QuickBooks. There are some databases that are both open source and commercial, and lots of developer tools and developer platforms. So I can basically subscribe to any of those and deploy them into my cloud. So why don't we choose one now and kind of give you a flavor for how this works. So I'll subscribe to a Hadoop cluster, and the thing leads me through a very quick wizard that lets me customize this, so I can call it whatever I want. I can choose any of the cloud profiles that I've set up. So we'll just make it easy and use my Amazon account. And then it brings up a page that lets me customize some of the parameters. So the system knows that this Hadoop workload will consist of a master, or at least one master node, and one or more slave nodes. And it knows the components that it has to install. It knows that there's a JDK component as well. And then, according to the underlying cloud, it lets me select the server instance flavor. Okay, so that's something that I can either take the default or override it. I can select a higher number of instances for the number of slave nodes and size up those instance sizes if I'd like. And that's just about it. So it presents me now with a cost of running this application. So what does the cost consist of? Well, in this case, it's the cost of the instances running in Amazon. So it gives me an aggregate cost for one master node and 3 slave nodes. It is possible in our system to also manage application pricing. So that's something that we can track as well. In this case, it's an open source app, so there's really no cost associated with that. So once I'm happy with it, I see the price, I select create workload. And this is where the system, the engine, actually starts going to work. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to call into the underlying cloud API. Okay, so in this case, we're calling into Amazon right now live, and we're standing up these instances that I requested. So these are the master node and the 3 slave node instances. You can sort of see the log messages and pop-ups starting to scroll and tell us. Once those are running, we perform additional tasks on top of that. The first thing we're going to do is bootstrap those images with an agent, and then use that agent to start pulling down the application components live. Okay, so what the system's really doing is a fresh wholesale install of the complete package, the set of packages comprising your workload, and doing that real time. Okay? And the way that we track this is actually from an application data model. So we understand the various components that go into standing up the workload that you've asked for. So what do we get in the end? Well, we earlier looked at this workload list. Before that, I didn't have this new one called Hadoop Cluster P, but here it is. It's starting to spin up. You can see that it's already gotten to the point where it's bootstrapped 3 of them. The 4th one is in the final stages of configuring the server, and once that's up and running, I again have my ability to go back and manage it. One of the other final things I wanted to give you a flavor of is once these things are up and running, they're actually decoupled from their underlying cloud. So we know how to provision things in these different cloud environments, but we also know how to copy them. So if you'd like to stand up a new instance of this workload, perhaps for QA or for development or even for production, it's a simple operation to do that. So we know that we have something running in Amazon. I can make another copy of this workload in Amazon, or I can choose to copy it off to another cloud. So it's possible to do this sort of in a heterogeneous fashion. And if you do that, the only additional step would be to select the different instance sizes. Since might have instances in the public cloud and the private cloud that don't match. You can choose to override that. Once you've selected it, you can start the copy process, and we're performing this sort of live copy of all of the elements that are in the source into the target. And what do we get in the end? In a few minutes, we'll have a clone of the original workload up and running in this new cloud target, in this case, cloud platform. So that's it. That kind of hopefully gave you a quick flavor into what we can do. Again, this is a software platform. It's on premises. It's not a hosted service. You would stand this up in your data center. A lot of service providers are standing this up next to their cloud services. And really the idea is to give a much simpler mechanism for standing up enterprise apps, distributed apps in a choice of cloud environments. So if there are any questions, I can take them now, or I'll stick around for the next few minutes and be happy to answer them. I'm sorry, I didn't hear? No, we do. So the question was whether we offer this only through the portal or an API. There is a web services RESTful API. So one of the ideas is that a user might want to use our portal, or they may want to script this into their own portal. And so there's a full API and a command line interface as well for access to the services. Three choices to get into it. And there are service providers that do prefer their own portal. We've also gone through the steps of integrating with some other commercial portals. One of them that's on the market is the Citrix CPDM, the Citrix Portal Business Manager. So there's an integration with that one as well. Any other questions? All right, well, thanks again, and we're right here at booth 455 if anybody else wants to see a more deep demo. Thank you.